high school graduate working in a restaurant. There's no way we'd hire someone with such low education and bottom tier status, right? What a waste of time. All right, you can leave now.
The interviewer picked up my resume and pressed the shredder button. The thin sheet of paper was easily torn to pieces. Listening to the mechanical sound, I started to recall my past. My name is Kent Stevens, and I turned 26 this year. I have a younger brother who is 6 years younger than me. This year, he finally became an adult and enjoys going to college every day. Our parents died in an accident when I was in middle school. Both our parents were estranged from their relatives, and no one offered to help or take us in. My brother, who was still in elementary school at the time, clung to me and cried every day. Luckily, with our parents' insurance and inheritance, we didn't have financial troubles for our daily life. But seeing my brother like that, I made up my mind.
I'm the only one my brother has now. I want him to graduate from high school and college, have a proper family one day, and never have to cry like this.
The next year, when I started high school, I began working part-time and saving a bit for my brother's future. I juggled several jobs and headed to work right after school every day. As a result, I often fell asleep in class from exhaustion. Even though it was for my brother, I knew this wasn't ideal, but I couldn't help being tired with so many jobs from after school until late at night. My high school life was far from what I had imagined, but people at work and my friends were supportive. "Hey, Kent, take these leftover ingredients from the store home with you." Or, "Kent, you fell asleep in class again, didn't you? I'll let you copy my notes this time." I got along well with most of my classmates, but there was one guy I couldn't get along with. His name was John Black, and he sat next to me. John was always at the top of the class, and whenever I tried to talk to him, he was unsmiling and unapproachable. His straight brown hair and narrow eyes made him look even more intimidating. He was smart, but seemed to have no friends. One day, after I had fallen asleep in class again, he approached me.
Hey, Kent. If you're going to sleep, do it at home. Seeing your sleeping face next to me kills my motivation.
John looked down at me with a blank expression as I rubbed my sleepy eyes. After saying this coldly, he walked out of the classroom, as if he had no further business with me. What the hell? He suddenly talked to me just to say that. I grumbled to myself as I glared at John's impeccably clean uniformed back. Then, one day, after work, I was heading home when I encountered a situation. It was late because a customer stayed until closing. It had been raining unexpectedly since the evening, and the rain was getting heavier. The rain doesn't seem like it's going to stop. I should run home from the station. As I got off the train and walked to the platform, I saw a familiar face and ran over. With a bright smile, my brother Tyler said,
Hey, Kent. Good job at work. The rain hasn't stopped, so I brought you an umbrella.
"Thanks a lot, Tyler, but it's dangerous to be out alone this late." As I patted Tyler's head, I noticed someone standing behind him and was shocked.
Sorry, Kent, but this guy stayed with me because he said it was dangerous to be alone.
It was John.
The brother you were waiting for was Kent.
John looked at me, equally surprised. Even though I was taken aback, since we were heading in the same direction, John and I walked home together with Tyler between us. John had seen Tyler alone at the station while returning from his tutoring. It was past 9 p.m., and John, feeling concerned, spoke to Tyler. I told John about how our parents died when I was in middle school, and now I worked as much as possible to save money for Tyler's future. Despite his usual unfriendly demeanor, John looked incredibly kind when he talked to Tyler. Honestly, I never thought you'd do something like this, but thank you so much. I might have misunderstood you a bit. As we parted ways, I told John,
I misunderstood you too. I thought you were just a lazy guy who slept in class and goofed off. Sorry for saying such harsh things the other day.
that incident brought John and me closer, and we started having casual conversations. I realized that John was just awkward around people, but was actually a hardworking and honest person. Seeing us talking, other classmates also began talking to John. Before I knew it, John was no longer alone like before. On Sundays when I didn't have work and John didn't have his tutoring, he started teaching me. Thanks to his effective teaching, my grades, which were barely passing, started improving. When John came over, my brother Tyler would happily exclaim, "Oh, it's John." John treated Tyler like his own little brother. One day, I asked John why he was so dedicated to helping me study.
Actually, I have a sister who's 3 years younger than me. But when we were in elementary school, our parents divorced and we were separated. The last time I saw her, she was crying and I couldn't do anything to help. So, I admire you for working so hard for your brother.
John explained. His experience made him want to help me in any way he could by teaching me. He also mentioned that he was studying hard to get into a good university so he could be independent and reunite with his sister someday. Knowing this, I became even more determined to study seriously. Eventually, my grades improved to the point where college was within reach. However, that's when I received a call from the insurance company. They informed me that after I graduated high school, the insurance payments from our parents would decrease. While we had managed to get by on the insurance money, I quickly realized there wouldn't be enough to cover both my college and my brother's future tuition. I knew this was coming. Yet to say I didn't have at least some hope of experiencing the college life my classmates talked about would be a lie. But I decided to work after graduating high school. As long as Tyler could go to high school and college without any problems, that was enough for me. John, after I graduate, I'm going to work instead of going to college. I'm sorry. You've helped me so much with studying, but thank you. When it was time to discuss our future plans, I told John about my decision.
No way, there are scholarship programs and you're capable if you try. Why?
John stopped mid-sentence, probably realizing my true intentions and thinking about Tyler. He looked more frustrated than I did. We graduated, and John went on to a prestigious university. I went through several job interviews, but the reality of getting a job with just a high school diploma was harsh. After many rejections, I finally got hired by a restaurant company. Though we stayed in touch occasionally, we were both busy with work and college, so we didn't see each other for a while. The pay wasn't great, but I worked hard every day. The restaurant was a casual eatery in a downtown area. I worked at one of several locations they had. My main duties included front-of-house service, managing part-time staff, ordering supplies, checking inventory, and cleaning. Most customers were office workers from nearby offices. Welcome. Thanks for coming in. The usual set for you today? Oh, you've remembered my order? I'll have the usual then. Your smile always makes my day, customers would say, which motivated me even when I was tired. Thanks to my various part-time jobs in high school, I quickly adapted to the work. And then, one day at lunchtime. It was during the busy lunchtime rush. There was a loud crash, and I saw that a new staff member had spilled a meat sauce dish all over a businessman. His shirt and tie were stained, and the newbie looked pale and frozen in place. I immediately rushed over and said, "Are you okay, sir?"
Hey, what are you going to do about this? I can't walk around like this. I have an important meeting in 30 minutes.
The customer, with a deep frown, looked at his watch in a panic. "I'm really sorry. Could you please wait just a moment?" Desperately, I shouted at the customer, gave instructions for cleaning, and asked the staff to manage the cleaning, and then dashed out of the store. I knew the nearby downtown area well and ran to a clothing store that sold suits and dress shirts. I quickly selected a shirt and tie, paid for them, and rushed back to the store. I handed the newly bought shirt and tie to the customer just in time.
The size is perfect, and the tie looks great. I broke into a cold sweat, but I think I'll manage to make it on time.
The customer seemed relieved after changing. We gave him money for the dry cleaning and repeatedly apologized as we saw him off in a hurry.
Oh, I'm really sorry.
After the customer left, the new staff member, on the verge of tears, apologized to me several times. "Hey, it's okay. I'm glad we managed. I made plenty of mistakes during my first job in high school." The customer was understanding, so just be careful next time and keep trying your best. I patted the staff member on the shoulder with a big smile. Having seen this customer a few times before, I remembered his body type and the color of the ties he usually wore. That's how I managed to pick something that suited him in a pinch. I was relieved that the customer was satisfied and the situation was resolved. Such troubles happened occasionally, but by then, I had been working at this restaurant for several years. One night after closing, I was taking out the trash and walking through a back alley.
Hey there, lady. Are you alone? Come hang out with us.
Wow, you're really pretty. Come on, let's go.
Please stop.
I noticed a group of guys harassing a woman who clearly didn't want their attention. I had a feeling I recognized her, but I couldn't place it. I dropped the trash bags and found myself naturally stepping in. I removed the guy's hand from her shoulder. "Hey guys, she's not interested. You can't force someone like this."
What do you want? Get lost.
As one of the guys glared at me, a fist came flying at my face. I don't remember much after that, but I know I took a few hits and ended up fighting back instinctively. When I came to, I was lying on the ground.
Are you all right?
I saw the concerned face of the woman from earlier, and I tasted blood in my mouth. Fortunately, the woman I protected was unharmed, but I ended up with injuries that would take about 2 weeks to heal. Given my job in customer service, I had to take time off work. During that time, the woman visited me several times. Her name was Julie Smith, a woman with beautiful straight brown hair. Julie, feeling guilty, often brought homemade meals. To make her feel better, I tried to stay cheerful and crack small jokes. While I was in the hospital, I got a call from the head office of my workplace. It was to inform me of my dismissal. Even though it was self-defense, the fact that I had hit back a few times was a problem. Wearing the store's uniform during the incident was seen as damaging to the store's reputation. At first, I tried to explain that it was self-defense, but it was true that I had hit back. My explanation wasn't accepted, and I didn't want to cause more trouble for the store. During the call, I heard the person from the head office mutter, "This is why we don't hire high school grads." I clenched my phone and accepted the dismissal.
Kent, how are your injuries? I'm glad your wounds healed nicely. Now you can go back to work.
Julie visited me again today. Thanks, Julie. But actually, I've decided to leave my job. I'd been thinking about it for a while, and this seemed like a good time. I tried to sound cheerful, hiding the fact that I was fired. If she knew the truth, Julie would feel even guiltier. She seemed surprised, but only said, "I see," looking apologetic. Fortunately, my brother Tyler got into college last year and is now attending. But he still has a few years until graduation. And we don't have much extra money for living expenses and tuition. I felt anxious about finding a new job quickly, but with only a high school diploma and my work history, the future didn't look bright. The sound of my phone ringing snapped me back to reality. It was from John, whom I hadn't heard from in a while. Feeling nostalgic, I answered.
Hey Kent? Long time no see. Are you still at the same job? If you're thinking about changing jobs, a company I know is hiring. Interested?
It was perfect timing. John spoke with the same clear tone as in high school. I was surprised at the timing, but decided to go for the interview at the company John recommended, thinking it might be fate. I also felt a bit excited to hear from John after so long. Today was the day of the interview. I put on a suit, something I rarely wore, and headed to the interview location. Given my situation, I couldn't afford to be picky and bought the cheapest suit on sale for this day. I rarely wore suits, but I made sure it was wrinkle-free and my hair was neat as I headed to the interview. I arrived at the interview room a bit nervous, knocked on the door, and entered with an "Excuse me." Inside, there was one interviewer, a man named Andy. He looked very meticulous with glasses and stared at me intently. Just as I was about to introduce myself,
High school grad working in a restaurant. We can't hire someone with such low education and bottom tier status, right? What a waste of time. All right, you can leave now.
Andy picked up my resume and pressed the shredder button. The thin sheet of paper was easily torn to pieces. As I listened to the mechanical sound, memories flooded back. Indeed, I only had a high school diploma and had worked only in the restaurant industry. Still, I worked as hard as I could. But maybe, in front of this man or society in general, I'm just as easily shredded as a single sheet of paper. I feel bad for John, who introduced me, but it looks like it didn't work out. What should I tell him? As I was about to leave the room I had just arrived in, I heard a knock and the sound of heels clicking. Looking up from organizing my bag, I saw a woman in a slim suit with her long brown hair neatly tied up. I was surprised to see that it was Julie. Behind her, I heard another set of footsteps.
Sir, Kent is here.
Then, as I saw the man who followed her, I dropped my bag in shock. Andy also straightened up abruptly at the unexpected appearance of the man. The man, who was apparently the president of the company, wearing an imposing suit and with neatly groomed brown hair, looked at me with strong, narrow eyes. "You, John? President, what's going on? And Julie is the secretary here?" I blurted out, confused.
Kent, sorry for the surprise. But explanations can wait. More importantly, I overheard the interview from the hallway. Andy, it seems you don't have an eye for people. You're not suited for HR in this company. You're fired, effective immediately.
Andy turned pale, his earlier demeanor completely gone.
Wait, I didn't know this person was your acquaintance.
Andy tried to salvage the situation, clinging to John.
It doesn't matter if he's my friend. You judged him based on his education. What are you looking at in people? Kent, you have strengths. That's why I invited you to my company. Your ability to build relationships is a valuable asset. Will you lend it to my company?
John's straightforward words pierced through me. Julie smiled warmly beside him. John then explained everything to me. First, John was the president of this company. He studied business in college and started his own company after graduation. Though he faced many challenges initially, his efforts paid off and the company grew. Now, John was recognized as a young and promising entrepreneur. Second, Julie was his secretary. It turned out that Julie was John's biological sister. Their parents had divorced when they were young, so their last names were different, but their straight brown hair and narrow eyes showed their sibling connection. Having become independent, as he had always said, John was able to reunite with Julie without their parents' interference. Julie then started working as his secretary. One day, Julie told John about being rescued by someone from harassment after work. When she mentioned my name, John was surprised but learned that I had left my previous job. That's why John called me for this interview.
If I had explained the situation directly, you might have thought I was just pitying you. That's not it. I wanted to formally hire you as an employee. I've admired your talent since high school, and you helped me when I was always alone. Now, I feel like I can't manage everything by myself.
John said with a rare, slightly embarrassed expression. Hearing his words, my heart, which had felt worthless moments ago, started to brighten.
So, what's your answer?
I turned to face John directly, and a big smile naturally spread across my face. A few months later, having gotten quite used to my sales job, I was running around every day meeting clients. My sales numbers were skyrocketing. John decided that firing Andy was too harsh and instead demoted him. John remained as busy as ever as a young president.
Oh, Kent. I made too much lunch yesterday. If you'd like, please take this.
When I greeted to Julie in the hallway, she stopped me and handed over a boxed lunch. She sometimes gives me lunch when I'm too busy to eat during my sales calls. Really? Wow, Julie, your homemade lunches are always delicious. Thank you so much. As I thanked her with a big smile, someone grabbed my shoulder firmly from behind.
Hey, Kent. I acknowledge your people skills, but don't make a move on my sister. I don't want to be your brother-in-law.
John glared at me with his narrow eyes. He must have just returned from an outside meeting. President, good to see you. I greeted John politely and then whispered, "You say that, but you look kind of happy about it." We laughed together just like we did in high school, making sure no other employees noticed.